Hi, my name is Antoinette Londejean, and I'm thrilled to be here with Jason Stanley of Misty Cliffs Premium Non-Alcoholic Wines. Jason is the CEO and founder of Misty Cliffs, based in South Africa, and with a long history of making some of the world's greatest wines in South Africa. It's brilliant to see, Jason, that you have started this project that is introducing a new category, new in the mainstream of wine. As we learned last week, non-alcoholic wine is not new to the world, but new in mainstream. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in wine, Jason?
Sure thing, Antoinette. Well, great to be here with you today and to talk about this exciting sector of the wine industry. Seems like every week there's a new report coming out of AC Nielsen or some other industry body that this sector of the industry is growing. And so as someone that's been in the wine industry for about 20 years, it's exciting to be part of this non-alcoholic wine sector. So yeah, great to be here and talk to you about non-alcoholic wines and a little bit about Misty Cliffs. My background is about 20 years ago, I got on an airplane and I flew from Cape Town, South Africa, where I'm speaking to you from today. And I emigrated to the Northeast, to Boston, Massachusetts specifically. And I got into work with the top South African wine importer. We imported about 20 different wine estates from places like Stellenbosch or the Swartland or Constantia that many of your customers will have heard of. And that's my background. That's how I got into the wine industry, and I've been involved kind of ever since.
Well, that certainly gives you an amazing perspective on how non-alcoholic wine would have been received. Can you tell us about how Misty Cliffs came about?
Sure. So, I grew a deep appreciation for wine over those years working in the wine business, and I got to come to this love of wine where I think wine's got a magical quality. It can enhance good conversations with friends. It can enhance a meal. You guys have just been through Thanksgiving in the US, you were mentioning before the Zoom, and I think to have a beautiful bottle of wine on the table with friends and family, there's a magic that wine can provide to those occasions, be those beautiful conversations or enhancing a beautiful meal. But in my wine job, I traveled a lot for my work, and I drank a little bit more and I consumed a little bit more wine than the average person. So a typical work week would be I'd fly from Boston, Massachusetts to Los Angeles on a Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday I'd be running around to different lunches, different dinner events, and different tasting events with various wine buyers during the day. And then Thursday morning I'd get up, fly to San Francisco, go and meet with the buyer for Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, wherever it might be, wine groups. And there was a lot of consumption of alcohol involved. Sometimes we'd split, but you also drink some wine with various of the buyers. Anyway, Friday would roll along and I'd get back on a plane to fly to Boston, and the text messages would fly in from my friends and say, hey, it's Friday night, we're going to hit the town. And I could keep up for a few months, maybe even a few years, but I got this longing after some time to sort of still go out and socialize with my friends, but I wanted a high quality beverage that still tasted good when I went out to those social occasions with my friends. And it kind of sat in the back of my mind for years and years. And, and eventually I started trying to do a non-alcoholic wine at about 2015 in California, where I've been living for the past few years. And I spoke to my friends up in Napa, the winemakers, and I said, come on, there's an opportunity here for non-alcoholic wine. I wanted the product. Let's do something here. And I just couldn't get it right. We couldn't find the right base quality juice. And so we pivoted and we tried a non-alcoholic cocktail. And we kind of got we got the liquid right. We got the beverage right. And we launched it in 2017, right before the pandemic hit. And we got it into Whole Foods and a couple of other big customers, and then the pandemic hit all of a sudden. And so we thought, we got to talk to our customers. And so I conducted a lot of interviews on Zoom, kind of like if you were a purchaser of St. Ivy, I'd say, hey, Antoinette, why are you buying this non-alcoholic cocktail, St. Ivy? What do you like about it, and how can we make it better? And the feedback that we got, instead of, this is why I'm purchasing the non-alcoholic cocktail, this is how I can make it better, I kept hearing, we like it, Jason, but we really just couldn't find a good non-alcoholic wine, and that's why we bought your non-alcoholic cocktail. And so we thought, we've got to revisit this non-alcoholic wine situation. And so I asked all my friends around the world, who's making the best non-alcoholic wine in the world at the moment, and I kept hearing a name, Reg Holder, from my native South Africa, and I was in California, and Reg and I got on a couple of Zooms, and I think that there's a concept in the business books called Who Luck. Well, I had a lot of Who Luck with Reg. He's a really stand-up guy. He's been a winemaker for 20 years. He launched his own brand, Lautus, about 7 or 8 years ago. It's in 20 countries. We import it into the US and Canada. It does very well. And we started talking 2 or 3 years ago about Misty Cliffs, and so he's our winemaking partner, and that's the birth of Misty Cliffs. That's the story of how we came to be.
Incredible. And what a series of events to lead up to the union of you and Reg. And you touched on how to drink, what the situations are that come about where you're enjoying wine around the Thanksgiving table with colleagues if you're in the wine trade. So outside of really wine trade consumption, which I'm noticing is increasing among trade members, who are the consumers of non-alcoholic wines for the most part, and how are they integrating non-alcoholic wine into their day-to-day lives?
Great, interesting question. And I have sort of evolved in my thinking in answering this question over time as we've gained more insight from industry studies and from seeing online who's purchasing our non-alcoholic wine. So, I mean, it's a very broad market. There's not like 20 to 30-year-olds or 50 to 60-year-old women. It's very broad. It's ranges from 20 to age 70. I'd say if you were going to try and narrow it down, there's a slightly larger consumption group for our wines anyway, in sort of highly educated females in the 45 to 55 bracket, but I don't want to pigeonhole. It's very broad. It's a broad range of ages. It's generally quite well-educated people we're seeing, for whatever that's worth, and a little more, probably 2/3 female over male, but it's a very broad range of people. And then in terms of when they're drinking and how they're drinking, those people, again, very broad range of answers to that type of question. So we refer to them as bookend drinkers. So you mentioned the Thanksgiving dinner, or I mentioned you had the Thanksgiving dinner with friends and family. The story I hear from the bookend drinkers is, I used to go out to dinner and I used to have 3 or 4 glasses of Sauv Blanc. I'd pay $8, $9, $10 a glass. Now what I do is I use your Misty Cliffs Sauvignon Blanc as a bookend. I have one Sauvignon Blanc from Misty Cliffs. Then I have a $14, $15 glass of French Sauvignon Blanc or Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. And then I have another Misty Cliffs Sauvignon Blanc. So they're using them as bookends. They're mixing them into their alcoholic drinking. Or there's the Tuesday sushi crowd who are having a lovely meal on a Tuesday. They're professionals. They don't want to drink their sushi with LaCroix or Spindrift, and they choose a non-alcoholic wine because they want to elevate that special meal. Or there's the pregnant and the driving, drinking and driving and exercise, those kind of people. I think that the interesting one for me, though, Antoinette, is 85% of people to 90% of people that purchase non-alcoholic wines also purchase alcoholic wines. And I used to think it was the other way around. I used to think it was the 80-20 rule. 80% of people that are buying this are just stopping drinking. That's not the case at all. And that's becoming more and more ubiquitous today, which is very interesting to us. So yeah, that's a little bit about who's drinking, when they're drinking, how they're drinking it. It's there's all sorts of different stories. I mean, the other day I was at one of our top clients, Boisson. They're a big online buyer, and they were saying there's an elderly woman in an old age home, and she buys a case a week and she drinks it with her friends in the old age home because they've had such good times drinking alcohol and they want to still have those good times. So lots of different drinking occasions and target market.
You know, it must be a point of curiosity for people to walk into a wine shop and see a non-alcoholic section, a growing non-alcoholic section, or starting to see non-alcoholic wines on fine dining wine menus. And especially, I can imagine when you're traveling to promote Misty Cliffs, you must receive a lot of curiosity from trade members and potential clients. So where is the curiosity? What are the kind of questions that you receive? What are people trying to understand most about non-alcoholic wine?
Well, again, there's a variety of different questions, and it is interesting for me how the level of interest has grown. So I'm also in the regular alcoholic wine business. And 5 or 10 years ago, if I went out with my friends and I said, I'm in the wine business and I'm also in the non-alcoholic business, the people always say, tell me about your alcoholic wine. These days when I go out and I say I'm in the wine business, which I am still in the regular alcoholic wine business, and I'm also doing non-alcoholic wine, people go, tell me about your non-alcoholic wine. That's the new sort of interesting topic to talk about. When I'm traveling around into retail shops or into restaurants, you mentioned restaurants, Antoinette. So last week we had an email from a Michelin star restaurant in Southern California. And they said, please, can you send us samples of your wines? And I said, fantastic, we'd love to. I said, I'm curious why. They said, we're getting more and more requests from our customers. We've got a pairing menu of 8 courses with alcoholic wines, but more and more of our customers are also interested in a non-alcoholic pairing. They want to enjoy the fine dining, but they want the elevated experience. And then there's a question just around food pairings. So a lot of people will say to me, how do I pair your Sauvignon Blanc? How do I pair your Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot with food? And it's a good question. I had to go back to Reg. I say, hey, Reg, what do I tell these people about the Sauvignon Blanc? He said, Jason, it's the same as the alcoholic version. So if you're having your Sauvignon Blanc, it's going to go well with seafood. It's going to go well with salads. It's going to go well with spicy Asian foods. If you're having a Cab Merlot, it's going to go well with red meats. It's going to go well with tomato-based dishes, pastas. So that's another basic, frequently asked question we get. I guess another question we get is around some of the more nuanced nomenclature and terminology, where people say, what's the difference between dealcoholized wine and a wine proxy? So the difference there is that a dealcoholized wine has started out as a regular wine. So it's been grown in the vineyards, like you see behind me and you, and it's been, vinified and it's come out as a regular wine. And then it's gone through a dealcoholization process. There's a couple of ways you can do that. So it's gone through the dealcoholization process, and then it's a dealcoholized wine. A wine proxy is slightly different. They'll start off with a base liquid. It can be tea, it can be water, it can be concentrates, juices, whatever it might be. And then they add different bits and pieces to that product, and they make an alternative to the regular wine. So that's the difference between a proxy and a dealcoholized wine. I personally think like wine, you get good examples, you get average examples, and you get not so good examples of dealcoholized wine and of proxies. But yeah, those are some of the frequently asked questions we get.
Right. And I imagine with all of your background study before launching Misty Cliffs, and then of course your studies during production to navigate the waters of how much to produce and where to export to, that you really have your finger on the pulse as to where the sales trends of non-alcoholic wines are. And so if you could touch on that a little bit for us and explain how things have morphed since the launch of Misty Cliffs and where we are today.
Yeah, I'll give you my personal anecdotal answer to that, and I'll give you the AC Nielsen for the stats geeks. When we launched non-alcoholic wines in the US maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, I forget the exact date, but I thought it wasn't going to work. I said to the consumers, I said, you're not going to pay $17 to $27 a bottle for a premium non-alcoholic wine, because there are options on the shelf from California for $8, $9, $14. Why are you going to pay so much more for a premium wine? They said, Jason, we just want something that tastes good, and we'll pay more for it, don't you worry. So I thought, oh, I've heard this a few times again, let's try one container. Before we got the container from Cape Town to New Jersey, which takes about 3 weeks, we pre-sold the container before it got halfway. So we said, okay, send another 2. We pre-sold those other 2. So, anecdotally, it just worked for whatever reason. Statistically, AC Nielsen just released another report in the last month, and the growth on non-alcoholic products, this is not wine exclusively, it includes beer and wine and non-alcoholic spirits. Beer's the biggest sector, wine's the second biggest sector, and alcohol is spirits are the third biggest sector. But the growth's at about 32% over the last 12 months. That's off of a, relatively speaking, much lower base than alcohol. So 32% on a base of about $530 million. But that 530 million has gone from 200 to 530 million over 3 years. So that's very big growth over the last couple of years. Very steep growth curve. Alcohol overall is at about 1% growth over the last 12 months, but off of a much, much bigger base, 60 billion. But the trends are here to stay, we think. You would have heard of the WSET, the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, which is the largest educator of wine sommeliers at restaurants. I had a LinkedIn message the other day from one of their students saying, do you know what the thesis topic this year is for wine sommeliers at the WSET in level 4? And I said, no. He said, it's non-alcoholic wine. So to me, that just means that, you're training a lot of the top sommeliers in the world on the subject of non-alcoholic wine. You've got a lot more great products coming through. You've interviewed the likes of Lights and Gießen and other products, other top quality producers. There's continuous innovation coming into the market. There's new products. We really think that the trend is on the up, and it's probably going to continue. So it's a fun place to be.
And it sounds like it's something that you intend on, and part of the sector that you intend on staying in. Do you intend also on perhaps growing the line of Misty Cliffs, or how do you see Misty Cliffs in the next 10 years, better yet?
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, it's been such a fun place to be, because at heart, and my background is in sales, and us lazy sales guys always love a product that sells itself. We love drinking great wine, and we drink plenty of great wine, be it non-alcoholic or alcoholic. But when we find these products that just have a really fit a consumer need and an unmet need, it's a really fun place to be. So with us, with Misty Cliffs, we really just want to, and it's something that Reg keeps harping on me about, is let's just keep the quality high, because if we do that, we're not going to have a problem. When we ran out of the Sauvignon Blanc 6 months ago and I was out of stock, I said, Reg, come on, can't you just go and find some Sauvignon Blanc somewhere? We need it. He said, no, we're waiting till the next vintage. We're going to wait for the proper quality to come in, and then we're going to launch. So it's really just about keeping the quality high and trying to service the US market. The US market Reg is in 20 countries for Lautus. We're in just 1 or 2 countries for Misty Cliffs. We really just want to serve the US and Canada extremely well with our 4 SKUs we got on the market. I don't know that we'll extend to more SKUs than the 4 we've got. We're kind of happy with the 4 that we've got. We may look at 1 or 2 another brand at a different price point in the future. That is something we're speaking about with 1 or 2 customers. But for the moment, we're just interested in expanding our base in the US and Canada, and keeping the quality high and servicing our existing customers very well.
And the bottlings that you do produce are absolutely brilliant, and they are premium quality. I fell head over heels in love with your Sauvignon Blanc, which is what led me to reaching out to you. And I'm, again, so delighted that you were able to take the time from your busy harvest schedule over there where you are in South Africa and join us. Before we say goodbye to everybody, are there any last words you'd like to share with us?
Well, thanks again. It was a great opportunity and a lot of fun to join you today and speak about this exciting topic and about Misty Cliffs. I just want to say thank you very much to all of the customers that have been supporting us so far. We're very grateful for the wonderful support. And if anyone wants to look up our wines, they can look them up on Misty Cliffs Wines with an S on the end .com, or Instagram handle is Misty Cliffs Wines. We're available nationwide on our website, on Amazon, on leading websites like Boisson. I think they've actually got a 10% off special for December. But yeah, our contact details on the website, and we'd love to hear your feedback. And thanks again, Antoinette, and thanks for your support. It was great to be here, and look forward to meeting you one day on the East Coast when I'm back in a couple of months.
Brilliant. Thank you again, Jason. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Antoinette. Ciao.